Let's talk about how you can get product market fit or at least some semblance of it prior to launching a CPG product, so a consumer packaged good. These are widgets. They're things they usually get shipped. They don't have to be shipped. They can be provided to grocery stores or big chains or small chains. So if you have a CPG product, there's a way for you to go ahead and try to get product market fit validation, some evidence of it before you do a big run of your product. So I have an example. Let's say you want to launch a new line of plant-based protein snacks or something. Instead of immediately investing in a factory run or hiring distributors, you could start by creating a small batch at home through a commercial kitchen. Now, are you going to have all of the insurances set up for that? Probably not. I have to say, as the lawyer, that there is like a small risk. There is some potential liability if somebody happens to get sick. They could come after you for it, and you have to know that. But I think that most people are willing to risk this so that they're not spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on insurance when they haven't even launched their product yet. That is up to you and your own risk tolerance or risk aversion. And if you have additional questions about that, you can always feel free to seek the advice of your own personal attorney. I'm not trying to give you advice. I just want to let you know that that's a thing that you might want to think about. So you could package these in very simple but somewhat polished wrappers so that they'll look very homemade, but at least it's something to give it a little bit of a finished look. And maybe you don't have to have writing on it, but something that will be close to what your final product might look like, maybe a similar size to what you're thinking in your mind for the bar. Then you bring them to a farmer's market if you can afford the booth fee, or you could bring them to your local gym and see if you can talk to the gym owner, see if it's not a big chain, it's just a local gym, you're going to have more success probably in just trying to see if people are interested in this thing. You can maybe give them a little bit of a deal or a cut or I don't know, something. You could work something out with that gym owner. You could set up a small pop-up table depending on where you live. You might be able to lemonade stand the thing if you have good traffic where you are. And if it's easy for people to pull over and get what you're going to be selling. So as you hand out the samples, tell people this is super important. This is super, super important. You tell people that you did not make these. So you need their real thoughts. The whole purpose is for them to be super honest with you. So you say you won't be offended if they don't like them because you had nothing to do with them. Now, I understand that this is a lie, but it's a very, very, very important lie for you to tell in order for you to get real responses from people. And you can also say, also, conversely, you won't be flattered if they like the bars because you didn't make them. Somebody else made them. Your little job there is just to hand them out and to get people's real responses one way or the other. But the most important thing is that they be honest and they be blunt in real time. So I know it's a little lie and you might be uncomfortable with that, but this works. Okay, so I don't feel badly about it's a little white lie. It's just it's not a big deal. You're not, I mean, they're getting it for free. You're not trying to hoodwink these people. You're just trying to get a very unbiased reaction. So you want to observe their reactions. That's why I think it's so important to do these things live. And with a consumer product good, could you ship some things to some people and watch them do an unpacking? Sure, but that is not going to be nearly as authentic and real. And when you are getting your packaged goods out to the masses or whatever your target audience is, you're not going to be there observing them. You're not going to be paying everyone to do an unpacking, and they're going to have their real reaction. Now, again, you're not going to please everybody all the time, but you want to make sure that you're you're getting the real immediate feedback. And you could push it farther if you wanted to by setting a modest price and see if they'll actually buy it on the spot. So maybe you give them a free sample, and if they really like it, you can try to push it to see, because there's one thing about really liking something that's free. It is very hard to get people to part with even $1 from their wallet. It is so, so difficult. So if you get people, even if it's a small percentage, if you get people who will buy one on the spot, you know that you are really onto something good. Especially these have to be strangers. They can't know you already, okay? That doesn't help eliminate the bias. So if you can do that, it it tells you um, not just that people like the taste, but that they're willing to part with their hard-earned cash. And I think that if you actually sell one of these things, when you're really just testing out whether they like it, you need to just give yourself a big giant present or congratulations or take yourself out to dinner or something, because that is a super huge achievement. And by observing real world behavior in real time, instead of relying solely on surveys, which is what I spoke about in my previous video, my basics on product market fit. By doing this also, you're going to get very quick, clear signals on product market fit without needing to produce at scale. You're doing it before you produce at scale, before you invest money in a big test kitchen, before you invest money on packaging, before you invest money on marketing and manufacturing and all this other stuff. And there are like regulations when it comes to food, and your CPG could be completely different. It could not be food, but there are regulations, there are all these things that are expensive. So before you engage in all of that nonsense and all of that expense, figure out whether people even like the stuff, and bonus, whether they like it enough to part with their hard-earned cash. And you definitely don't need fancy packaging at all. That's just busy work. I talked about busy work in my idea phase video, and these are things that we do where we believe we're moving the needle. None of that matters. The product is what matters. Get that product or a sample of that product into the hands of the people and observe their real-time reactions. And don't explain, I should say this. I really needed to write this down. I will write it down, and I will make sure to put this in the description below. You have to give them permission to be real with you. It's important that you actually take notes, but whether they say something good or bad, you don't have an opinion about it. And the reason why you don't want to have an opinion is because you want them to keep giving you that intel. This intel is gold. It is gold. And so you can tell them that if they give you a response, thank you for that feedback, keep going. At the outset, one thing you can do is say, in real time, I want you to stop yourself. Even if it's like mid-chew, let me know your thoughts right then and there so I don't lose it. I need to capture that real time. If they tell you something bad about the product, don't explain why it's good. Again, when you ship this out to the masses, you're not going to be sitting there next to them. You can't say, well, you're a giant idiot. You don't understand that this is the way that you eat it. Or don't you understand that XYZ is actually good for you? You just take the information. The information is what's gold. Your own preconceived notions and opinion about it, that's not gold. That you already know what you think. And if they say something good about it, don't say, okay, great, like confirming and applauding them to continue to say more good stuff. You don't want to have an opinion. If they're saying good stuff on their own, wonderful, but don't bias the whole process by praising their praise, which begets like more and more and more praise, and it's going to kind of ruin that whole situation for you. You want their brutal honestly. A lot of people will have good things, they will have bad things, And you can do several runs of this. One you can do totally for free, sit out one day, do it totally for free. You could do a second day if people seem to like it. If they really, really liked it for free, do a second day where you tr give it to them for a small amount and you say, we're running a special and here's what we're doing. And then you could, if you wanted to, do a third run and see if people will pay the price that you want to charge for it. See if they'll do it. And that might be some good intel for you. I wanted to show you a case study. I'm creating my own case study. It's not really a case study, but I'm going to show you Byte. Now, one thing about their website, which they could actually get sued for, I hope they don't get sued, of course, but here, if you hover over Byte, it gets bold and you can finally see Byte. But when you don't hover over it, it says because it's the earth, you need to make sure that your writing is not blending into your background because that violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. And so people are getting sued for this. There are lawyers that we have such a bad reputation, I swear, but there are some lawyers who will go out there and find websites and find little tiny things to pick apart like that that violate the ADA and they'll sue them. And they're it's really I think the lawyers for the most part who do this don't do it because they care. I think it's basically the script, but they get away with it. But you do want to make sure that your website is accessible to people. It's important that we don't forget about those who have different abilities and we never know when we may join them, you know? So and of course I'm, speaking as though how whatever state you're in right now, it can always it can get worse and you should not exclude people. And not just because it could be you one day, but if you've ever been close to somebody who has been disabled, or if you've ever been disabled yourself, it's very frustrating to not be able to have access to basic stuff. All right, so that's about the ADA. But let me show you something about what these people did. All right, so I talk about with the idea phase, I say you need to do something that you're passionate about, that the world needs, and that you're good at. That's what I said in the idea phase video. These people did something they're passionate about. They created little toothpaste bits, and the reason why they did it is because this person was a surfer and she was really sensitive to seeing all the stinking plastic in the ocean. So she thought like the one little thing that she could do, even though there are all kinds of plastic bottles and water bottles, all the things, she wasn't trying to solve all the things. She was thinking, this is one thing I can do. It's toothpaste, and let's see if anybody else cares about it. Will anybody else actually give a crap? And it turned out that people did. People really, really, really did. So she started small batch in her living room. She started not only with herself, but with her friends and family. There's nothing wrong with starting with your friends and family, but eventually you do have to test with other people that are not just your friends and family to see if there's demand. Will people actually get this thing? Well, it turns out that there was. There was demand. And I believe, if I remember right, by the time they got on Shark Tank, they already had all kinds of revenue and they could show these sharks that there was demand for their stuff. They had customers, they were making money, and they needed the sharks to help them scale. Even like their packaging, what they have is, where is it? Do you see this little package right here? It's a paper bag. They put their tablets in there. So they're not even shipping in plastic, they're shipping in paper, and you refill your glass jar. So this person is living according to what she was passionate about. She found that not necessarily the whole entire world was demanding her product, but is something that could benefit the world that there was demand for. And she started doing this stuff herself. She learned about the chemistry of it all and started making these things herself. So she became a an expert. She had domain expertise. All right. So this is just one really great example of CPG where they followed things the right way in the right order. They went and got product market fit before they went big time with a big run. And it's just one example that I liked, so I thought I would show you. Now, in the next video, I'm going to be going over product market fit for tech, which is completely different how you want to go about that. I mean, there's some similarities, but there are some important differences, and you have to be a little bit, you can't make like one muffin or one belt. If you're building an app or something, you have to build the whole thing, and that's expensive. So there are ways to do this. And if you're thinking about going that way, if you were toying with tech instead of CPG, then watch the next video. But if tech has nothing to do with what it is that you're doing, feel free to skip this next video and you can go on to future videos. All right. I hope that you all will leave any questions down below. I will get to you as soon as I can. Until then, ciao.